Summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear, Chapter 1. The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. In the first chapter, James Clear introduces the concept of atomic habits, which refers to the small, seemingly insignificant habits that, when consistently applied, can lead to remarkable outcomes over time. Clear argues that our lives are the sum of our habits. What we repeatedly do, day in and day out, ultimately shapes our identity, productivity, and success. Clear emphasizes that people often overestimate the importance of single actions, while underestimating the power of small improvements made consistently over long periods. He explains this through the principle of compound growth, where the effects of small, positive actions build up over time, leading to exponential improvements. Conversely, negative habits compound as well, but in a detrimental way, leading to poor outcomes if left unchecked. The chapter delves into the common misconception that success requires massive action. While significant efforts can produce results, Clear argues that sustainable success is more often achieved through steady, incremental improvements. He points out that people often abandon their goals because they fail to see immediate results. This valley of disappointment is where many give up, not realizing that the progress they seek is just beyond the next curve of effort. Clear uses the analogy of an airplane to illustrate how small changes in direction can lead to vastly different outcomes. If a plane is off course by just a few degrees, it can end up hundreds of miles away from its intended destination. Similarly, small changes in habits can steer our lives in completely different directions. This concept underscores the importance of paying attention to the small choices we make daily, as they accumulate and determine our future. The chapter also introduces the idea of focusing on systems rather than goals. Clear argues that while goals are important for setting a direction, it is the system, the collection of daily habits and routines, that will ultimately lead to the achievement of those goals. By concentrating on improving our systems, we create an environment where success is inevitable. Clear concludes the chapter by challenging the reader to think about their current habits and how they align with the person they want to become. He urges readers to start by making small changes that align with their long-term goals, reinforcing the idea that tiny improvements can lead to extraordinary outcomes when compounded over time. Chapter 2. How your habits shape your identity, and vice versa. In this chapter, Clear explores the relationship between habits and identity, explaining how they are deeply interconnected. He posits that our habits are not just actions we perform but are tied closely to our sense of self and identity. The habits we cultivate are a reflection of who we believe we are, and over time, they shape our identity even further. Clear introduces the concept of identity-based habits, which suggests that the most effective way to change behavior is to start by focusing on the type of person you want to become, rather than the specific outcomes you want to achieve. This is in contrast to outcome-based habits, where the focus is on the results, such as losing weight or earning more money. Identity-based habits involve asking, "Who is the type of person that could get the outcome I want?" and then building habits that reinforce this identity. For example, instead of setting a goal to read a certain number of books, an outcome-based approach, Clear suggests adopting the identity of a reader. This identity shift naturally leads to the habit of reading regularly, as it aligns with the person you believe yourself to be. Over time, these small actions reinforce the identity, making the habit more ingrained and easier to maintain. Clear explains that every action we take is a vote for the type of person we wish to become. No single instance will transform our beliefs, but as these actions accumulate, so does the evidence of our new identity. This process of identity formation is crucial for habit change because it shifts the focus from what we want to achieve to who we want to be. The chapter also discusses the 3 layers of behavior change: outcomes, processes, and identity. Most people focus on outcomes, what they want to achieve, and processes, how they will achieve it, but the deepest layer is identity, who they believe they are. Clear argues that to create lasting change, we must focus on identity first. When our habits are aligned with our identity, they become more sustainable and resilient to challenges. Clear emphasizes that identity change is not about achieving perfection but about making incremental improvements that align with our desired self-image. By continually casting votes for our desired identity, we gradually shift our self-perception and make it easier to maintain the habits that support that identity. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to think about the type of person they want to become and to identify the small habits that align with that identity. Clear suggests starting with small, manageable habits that can be easily integrated into daily life. By focusing on identity rather than outcomes, readers can create habits that not only achieve their goals but also transform their self-image in the process. Chapter 3. How to build better habits in 4 simple steps. This chapter introduces a practical framework for understanding and building habits, known as the 4 laws of behavior change. This framework is based on the idea that habits follow a 4-step pattern: cue, craving, response, and reward. Each of these steps plays a crucial role in the formation and maintenance of habits, and by manipulating them, we can effectively create new habits or break old ones. 1. Cue. The cue is the trigger that initiates the habit. It is something in your environment that prompts you to take action. For example, the sound of your alarm in the morning might be a cue to start your morning routine. Clear explains that cues are often linked to specific contexts, such as a particular time of day, location, or emotional state. To build better habits, it is important to design your environment in a way that makes the cues for positive habits more obvious and accessible. 2. Craving. The craving is the motivational force behind the habit. It is the desire to achieve a certain outcome or feeling that drives you to act. For example, you might crave the feeling of relaxation that comes from drinking a cup of coffee, which prompts you to make coffee every morning. Clear emphasizes that cravings are driven by our brain's anticipation of the reward, rather than the reward itself. By understanding what we truly crave, we can create habits that satisfy those cravings in a healthy and productive way. 3. Response. The response is the action you take in response to the cue and craving. It is the habit itself, whether it is brushing your teeth, going for a run, or checking your phone. Clear explains that the response is influenced by your ability and willingness to perform the action. If a habit is too difficult, you are less likely to perform it consistently. To build better habits, it is important to make the response as easy and frictionless as possible. This might involve breaking the habit down into smaller, more manageable steps or simplifying the process. 4. Reward. The reward is the positive outcome that reinforces the habit. It is the satisfaction or pleasure you get from completing the habit, which makes you want to repeat it in the future. Rewards are crucial for habit formation because they provide the motivation to continue the behavior. Clear suggests that to build better habits, you should ensure that the reward is immediate and satisfying. The more immediate and tangible the reward, the more likely the habit will stick. Clear explains that by understanding and manipulating these 4 steps, you can apply the 4 laws of behavior change to create new habits or break old ones. Make it obvious. Design your environment to make the cues for your desired habits clear and noticeable. Make it attractive. Craving. Increase the appeal of your habits by associating them with positive experiences or rewards. Make it easy. Response. Simplify the habit by reducing the barriers to action and making it easier to perform. Make it satisfying. Reward. Ensure that the habit is immediately rewarding, so you are motivated to repeat it. This chapter lays the groundwork for the rest of the book, where Clear delves deeper into each of these 4 laws and provides practical strategies for applying them in everyday life. By mastering these 4 steps, readers can create habits that not only improve their lives but also align with their long-term goals and identity. Chapter 4. The Man Who Didn't Look Right. In this chapter, Clear introduces the first law of behavior change: make it obvious. This chapter begins with a fascinating story about a woman who could intuitively tell when her husband was about to have a seizure. She couldn't explain how she knew, she just had a sense that something was off. Over time, she learned to recognize the subtle cues that preceded these events. This story serves as an analogy for how cues trigger our habits, often without us being consciously aware of them. Clear explains that one of the most effective ways to build better habits is to become more aware of the cues that trigger our existing habits. This awareness allows us to either reinforce positive habits or disrupt negative ones. He emphasizes the importance of pointing and calling, a method used by Japanese railway workers to reduce errors. By pointing at objects and verbally stating what they see or intend to do, workers engage multiple senses, which increases their awareness and reduces mistakes. Clear suggests that a similar approach can be applied to habits. By verbally acknowledging our cues, we bring them into our conscious awareness, making it easier to control our responses. The chapter introduces the concept of habit stacking, a technique where you link a new habit to an existing one. This method takes advantage of the cues already present in your environment. For example, if you want to start meditating, you could stack the habit of meditation onto your existing habit of making coffee in the morning. After you make your coffee, you can meditate for 5 minutes. By linking the new habit to an established one, you create a clear cue that makes it easier to remember and perform the new habit. Clear also discusses the importance of implementation intentions, which are specific plans that outline when and where you will perform a new habit. Research shows that people who set specific implementation intentions are more likely to follow through on their goals. For example, instead of saying, "I will exercise more," you might say, "I will go for a 30-minute walk at 7 a.m. every weekday in the park near my house." This specificity helps to eliminate ambiguity and makes it more likely that you will follow through. The chapter further explores the impact of our environment on our habits. Clear argues that our surroundings play a crucial role in shaping our behavior, often more so than our willpower or motivation. He suggests that by designing our environment to make the cues for positive habits more obvious, we can significantly increase our chances of success. This might involve placing healthy foods at the front of the fridge, leaving a book on your pillow to remind you to read before bed, or placing your workout clothes next to your bed to encourage morning exercise. To summarize, the first law of behavior change, make it obvious, focuses on the importance of recognizing and controlling the cues in our environment. By making positive cues more visible and reducing exposure to negative ones, we can create an environment that naturally supports the habits we want to build. Clear encourages readers to take inventory of their environment and consider how it influences their habits, suggesting that small changes in our surroundings can lead to significant improvements in our behavior. Chapter 5. The Best Way to Start a New Habit. In this chapter, Clear elaborates on the second law of behavior change. Make it attractive. He begins by exploring the role of cravings in habit formation. According to Clear, habits are driven by a craving for change, a desire to experience a specific feeling or outcome. The more attractive a behavior is, the more likely we are to perform it. Clear explains that our brains are wired to seek out pleasure and avoid pain. This is a fundamental aspect of human psychology that influences our habits. When a habit is associated with positive feelings, we are more motivated to engage in it. Conversely, when a habit is associated with negative feelings, we are likely to avoid it. This understanding is crucial for designing habits that stick. One of the key strategies for making a habit more attractive is to use temptation bundling. This technique involves pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do. By linking a less desirable habit with a more desirable one, you increase the attractiveness of the habit you want to build. Clear also introduces the concept of dopamine-driven feedback loops. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in how we experience pleasure and motivation. When we anticipate a reward, our brain releases dopamine, which motivates us to take action. This anticipation is what drives us to repeat behaviors that have been rewarding in the past. By understanding and leveraging these dopamine-driven feedback loops, we can design habits that are more satisfying and easier to maintain. The chapter also touches on the importance of social influences in shaping our habits. Clear argues that we are highly influenced by the behaviors of those around us, particularly those in our close social circles. This is why it's often easier to adopt a new habit when others in our environment are doing the same. For example, if your friends are all committed to fitness, you're more likely to work out regularly. Clear suggests that we can harness this social influence to our advantage by surrounding ourselves with people who have the habits we aspire to develop. Additionally, Clear discusses the role of culture in habit formation. He explains that our cultural background and societal norms shape our perceptions of what is attractive or desirable. For instance, in some cultures, being punctual is highly valued, leading individuals in those cultures to develop strong habits around time management. Understanding the cultural context of our habits can help us design more effective strategies for change. To apply the second law of behavior change, make it attractive, Clear advises readers to find ways to make their desired habits more appealing. This could involve adding elements of fun or enjoyment to the habit, linking it with a rewarding experience, or using social and cultural influences to reinforce the behavior. By making habits more attractive, we increase our motivation to perform them, making it easier to build and sustain positive changes in our lives. Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. This chapter focuses on the third law of behavior change, make it easy. Clear begins by challenging the commonly held belief that motivation is the key to habit formation. While motivation can certainly play a role, Clear argues that the real driver of habit formation is simplicity. The easier a habit is to perform, the more likely we are to do it consistently. Clear explains that humans are wired to follow the path of least resistance. When given a choice, we naturally gravitate towards the option that requires the least effort. This principle is at the heart of habit formation. If a habit is easy to do, we're more likely to repeat it. Conversely, if a habit is difficult or requires significant effort, we're less likely to stick with it over time. One of the key strategies for making habits easier is to reduce friction. Friction refers to the obstacles that stand in the way of performing a habit. These obstacles can be physical, not having workout clothes ready, mental, feeling overwhelmed by the task, or emotional, lacking confidence. By identifying and eliminating sources of friction, we can make it easier to perform the desired habit. For example, if you want to read more, you could place books in easily accessible locations around your home, making it more convenient to pick one up and start reading. Clear also introduces the concept of environment design, which involves shaping your surroundings to make positive habits easier and negative habits harder. This could mean placing healthy foods at eye level in your kitchen, setting up your workspace to minimize distractions, or organizing your living space to encourage relaxation and mindfulness. By designing your environment to support your goals, you create a context in which good habits can flourish with minimal effort. The chapter also discusses the importance of repetition in habit formation. Clear explains that habits are not formed based on time but on the number of repetitions. The more times you repeat a behavior, the more automatic it becomes. This is why it's important to start with habits that are easy to perform, because they are easier to repeat. Over time, as the habit becomes ingrained, you can gradually increase the difficulty or complexity of the behavior. Clear also emphasizes the power of starting small. He introduces the 2-minute rule, which suggests that when you're starting a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This rule is based on the idea that the first step is often the hardest, so by making the habit as easy as possible to start, you're more likely to follow through. For example, if you want to start running, your initial habit could be as simple as putting on your running shoes. Once you've taken that first step, it's much easier to continue. In addition, Clear discusses the importance of automation in habit formation. By automating certain behaviors, such as setting up automatic bill payments or scheduling regular workouts, you remove the need for decision-making and reduce the cognitive load associated with the habit. This makes it easier to stick with the behavior over time. To apply the third law of behavior change, make it easy, Clear advises readers to focus on reducing friction, designing supportive environments, starting small, and automating behaviors where possible. By making habits easy to perform, we increase our chances of sticking with them, leading to lasting change over time. Chapter 7. The Secret to Self-Control. In this chapter, Clear delves into the fourth and final law of behavior change, make it satisfying. He explores the role of immediate rewards in habit formation and how they can be leveraged to build better habits and break bad ones. Clear argues that one of the main reasons habits fail to stick is because the rewards associated with them are either too delayed or not compelling enough. He emphasizes that for a habit to become ingrained, it needs to provide some form of immediate gratification. Clear begins by explaining the concept of immediate return environment versus delayed return environment. In an immediate return environment, our actions produce immediate consequences, such as eating food and feeling full or touching something hot and feeling pain. In contrast, many modern behaviors, such as saving money for retirement or eating healthy to avoid future illness, occur in a delayed return environment, where the benefits or consequences of our actions are not felt immediately. This delay often makes it difficult to stick with good habits because the rewards are not immediately apparent. To overcome this challenge, Clear suggests creating immediate rewards for good habits and immediate punishments for bad ones. For example, if you're trying to build a habit of exercising regularly, you could reward yourself with a healthy treat or a relaxing activity after each workout. On the flip side, if you're trying to break the habit of smoking, you could introduce an immediate punishment, such as a monetary penalty that you pay to a friend each time you smoke. These immediate consequences help to reinforce the behavior you want to develop or discourage the behavior you want to eliminate. Clear also introduces the concept of habit tracking as a way to make habits more satisfying. Habit tracking involves using a visual or physical representation of your progress, such as a calendar where you mark off each day you complete your habit. The simple act of recording your progress and seeing a streak build up provides a small but powerful reward that can keep you motivated. Clear explains that habit tracking is effective because it creates a visual cue that can serve as a reminder of your progress and a source of satisfaction. Each checkmark, cross, or tick on the calendar becomes a small reward, reinforcing the habit and making it more likely that you'll continue. This concept is sometimes referred to as the Seinfeld strategy, named after comedian Jerry Seinfeld, who reportedly used the calendar to track his daily writing habit, focusing on not breaking the chain of consecutive days. Another key point Clear makes in this chapter is the importance of making the end of a habit cycle satisfying. This means that the conclusion of a habit should provide a feeling of completion or success, which in turn motivates you to repeat the behavior. For instance, after finishing a workout, taking a few moments to stretch and reflect on your achievement can provide a sense of closure and satisfaction, encouraging you to stick with your exercise routine. Clear also discusses the role of accountability in making habits satisfying. He suggests finding an accountability partner or group to share your progress with. Knowing that someone else is aware of your goals and expects updates can create an external reward system, where the satisfaction comes from sharing your success with others. This social reinforcement can be incredibly powerful, as we often care deeply about the opinions and support of those around us. The chapter also touches on the concept of negative reinforcement, where the removal of an unpleasant stimulus can serve as a reward. For example, you might reward yourself for completing a difficult task by allowing yourself to stop working and relax. The satisfaction of being done and the relief from stress act as rewards, reinforcing the habit of tackling challenging tasks. Clear then contrasts immediate rewards with delayed gratification, emphasizing that while immediate rewards are crucial for habit formation, delayed rewards are often what sustain long-term success. He advises readers to find ways to bring elements of immediate satisfaction into habits that primarily offer long-term benefits. For example, if you're saving money, you could set up small milestones along the way that trigger rewards, such as treating yourself when you reach a certain savings goal. This combination of immediate and delayed rewards helps to maintain motivation and consistency over time. Chapter 8: How to Make a Habit Irresistible. This chapter shifts focus to the second law of behavior change, revisiting it in greater detail. Make it attractive. This chapter delves into the psychology behind cravings and how they drive our behavior. Clear explains that every habit is initiated by a craving, which is the desire to change our internal state. This craving is what motivates us to take action, whether it's the desire to feel relaxed, entertained, or energized. Clear expands on the concept of temptation bundling, which is a technique where you pair an action you need to do with an action you want to do. The idea is to link something you enjoy with a habit you want to build, thereby increasing the attractiveness of the habit. For example, if you enjoy watching Netflix but want to develop a habit of exercising, you could allow yourself to watch your favorite show only while working out. By bundling these activities, you create a situation where the desirable action, watching Netflix, becomes a reward for completing the necessary action, exercising. The chapter also explores how our environment influences our cravings and how marketers use these principles to make products more appealing. Clear explains that our brains are wired to be influenced by the cues around us, which often triggers cravings. For instance, the sight of a cookie can instantly create a craving for something sweet, even if you weren't hungry before. This is why environments designed to encourage certain behaviors, like supermarkets or casinos, are filled with cues meant to trigger specific cravings. Clear suggests that we can use this knowledge to our advantage by priming our environment to make positive habits more attractive. For instance, if you want to eat healthier, you could place fruits and vegetables in visible, easy-to-reach places in your kitchen, while storing junk food out of sight. By making the cues for healthy eating more prominent, and reducing the visibility of unhealthy options, you can influence your cravings and make it more likely that you'll choose the healthier option. Another technique Clear discusses is reframing your habits to make them more appealing. This involves changing the way you think about the habit to focus on its positive aspects. For example, instead of viewing exercise as a chore, you could reframe it as a way to feel more energized and clear-headed. This shift in perspective can make the habit more attractive and increase your motivation to perform it. Clear also touches on the importance of social norms in shaping our habits. We are heavily influenced by the behavior of those around us, often adopting habits that are seen as normal or desirable within our social groups. This is why joining a community or group that shares your goals can be so powerful. For example, if you want to develop a habit of running, joining a running club can help reinforce that habit because the behavior is normalized and supported by the group. To make a habit truly irresistible, Clear advises readers to focus on the anticipation of the reward rather than the reward itself. Our brains release dopamine not just when we receive a reward, but in anticipation of it. By focusing on the positive feelings that come before the habit, such as the excitement of starting a new book or the anticipation of a post-workout endorphin rush, you can make the habit more attractive and increase the likelihood that you'll stick with it. Chapter 9. The Role of Family and Friends in Shaping Your Habits. In this chapter, Clear explores the significant influence that our social environment, particularly our family and friends, has on our habits. He begins by explaining that humans are inherently social creatures, and much of our behavior is influenced by the people around us. Whether we realize it or not, we often adopt the habits, behaviors, and attitudes of those in our close social circles. This chapter focuses on how to use this social influence to our advantage in forming good habits and breaking bad ones. Clear introduces the concept of social norms and explains how they govern much of our behavior. Social norms are the unwritten rules that dictate how we should behave in certain situations, and they are often established by the people around us. For example, if you're part of a group where everyone exercises regularly, you're more likely to adopt exercise as a habit because it's seen as normal and desirable within that group. Conversely, if your social circle is largely sedentary, you might find it more challenging to maintain a regular exercise routine. One of the key ideas in this chapter is that we tend to imitate the habits of three groups of people: the close, family and friends; the many, the tribe; and the powerful, those with status and authority. Clear argues that by being mindful of these influences, we can make more deliberate choices about the people we spend time with and the social environments we immerse ourselves in. Clear also discusses the concept of identity within social groups and how our desire to belong often drives our behavior. We are more likely to adopt habits that help us fit in or gain acceptance within a group. This is why social support can be so effective in habit formation. For example, if you join a group where everyone is focused on healthy eating, you're more likely to adopt similar habits because it reinforces your identity as part of that group. To leverage social influence for habit formation, Clear suggests finding a group or community that embodies the habits you want to develop. For instance, if you want to become a better writer, joining a writer's group can provide the social support and accountability needed to maintain the habit. The shared identity and common goals of the group help to reinforce the behavior, making it easier to stick with. Clear also advises readers to be aware of the cultural scripts that guide behavior within different social contexts. Cultural scripts are the expectations and norms that are specific to particular environments, such as a workplace, school, or family gathering. These scripts can either support or hinder habit formation, depending on how well they align with the habits you want to develop. By understanding and navigating these cultural scripts, you can create a social environment that supports your goals. The chapter also explores the idea of peer pressure, which is often seen in a negative light but can be a powerful force for positive change when used correctly. Positive peer pressure can motivate us to rise to the expectations of our social group, encouraging us to adopt better habits. For example, if your friends expect you to show up for a weekly workout session, you're more likely to do so, even if you don't feel like it, because you don't want to let them down. Finally, Clear discusses the importance of being intentional about the people you surround yourself with. He suggests that if you're struggling to build a particular habit, it might be worth considering whether the people around you are supporting or hindering your progress. Sometimes, the most effective way to change your habits is to change your social environment, whether that means finding new friends, joining a new community, or spending more time with people who embody the habits you want to develop. Chapter 10. How to Find and Fix the Causes of Your Bad Habits. This chapter explores the concept of identifying and addressing the root causes of bad habits. He emphasizes that while it's important to understand and modify the cues, cravings, responses, and rewards that make up our habits, it's equally crucial to identify the underlying reasons why we engage in bad habits in the first place. Often, these bad habits are driven by deeper issues, such as stress, boredom, or unresolved emotions. Clear begins by explaining that bad habits are often the result of trying to solve a problem, or meet a need in a way that is ultimately unproductive or harmful. For example, smoking might be a way to cope with stress, or procrastination might be a response to fear of failure. To effectively break a bad habit, it's necessary to identify the underlying need that the habit is fulfilling and find a healthier way to address it. The chapter introduces the idea of reprogramming your brain to respond differently to the cues that trigger bad habits. This involves becoming more aware of the situations, emotions, and environments that lead to the habit and then consciously choosing a different response. Clear suggests using techniques such as mindfulness, meditation, or journaling to increase self-awareness and gain insight into the triggers and patterns of your bad habits. Clear also discusses the importance of inversion in behavior change. Inversion involves identifying the opposite of the bad habit you want to eliminate, and then focusing on building that positive habit instead. For instance, if you want to stop eating junk food, you might focus on developing the habit of preparing and eating healthy meals. By concentrating on the positive behavior, you naturally reduce the occurrence of the negative one. Another key strategy discussed in this chapter is making the bad habit difficult. Clear explains that increasing the friction associated with a bad habit can make it harder to engage in. For example, if you struggle with spending too much time on social media, you could delete the apps from your phone, use website blockers, or set your phone to grayscale to make it less appealing. By making the bad habit more inconvenient, you reduce its likelihood. Clear also suggests creating a habit contract as a way to hold yourself accountable. A habit contract is a written agreement that outlines the specific behavior you want to change, the consequences if you don't stick to it, and the rewards if you do. This contract can be shared with a friend or accountability partner, who helps ensure that you follow through. The social pressure of knowing that someone else is monitoring your progress can be a powerful motivator to stay on track. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to approach bad habits with a mindset of curiosity and problem-solving. Rather than viewing bad habits as failures or weaknesses, Clear suggests seeing them as opportunities to learn more about yourself and your needs. By identifying the root causes and addressing them directly, you can break the cycle of bad habits and replace them with healthier, more productive behaviors. Chapter 11, Walk Slowly, but Never Backward. This chapter focuses on the idea of continuous improvement and the importance of maintaining progress, even if it's slow. James Clear emphasizes that the key to long-term success is consistency, not speed. He introduces the concept of 1% better every day, which is the idea that small, incremental improvements compound over time and lead to significant results. Clear argues that the biggest mistake people make when trying to build new habits or achieve their goals is expecting too much too soon. This often leads to disappointment and discouragement when progress isn't as rapid as expected. Instead, Clear advises adopting a mindset of patience and persistence, where the focus is on making steady progress, no matter how small. The chapter discusses the importance of showing up and doing the work, even on days when you don't feel like it. Clear explains that habits are formed through repetition, not intensity, so the most important thing is to keep going, even if your efforts are imperfect. He shares the story of a writer who made a commitment to write every day, regardless of whether he felt inspired or not. Over time, this consistent practice led to the development of a strong writing habit and eventually, successful books. Clear also explores the concept of never miss twice, which is a strategy for maintaining habits over the long term. The idea is that if you miss a day or fail to follow through on a habit, you should make it a priority to get back on track the next day. By refusing to let one missed day turn into two, you prevent small slip-ups from turning into larger setbacks. The chapter also touches on the idea of plateaus of latent potential, where progress seems to stall even though you're still putting in the effort. Clear explains that these plateaus are normal and should be expected, but they are also where most people give up. He encourages readers to push through these plateaus, as they often precede breakthroughs in performance or results. The key is to stay committed and continue making small improvements, trusting that the results will come in time. Clear concludes the chapter by discussing the importance of celebrating small wins along the way. Recognizing and appreciating progress, no matter how minor, helps to maintain motivation and reinforces the habit. He suggests setting up systems to regularly review and reflect on your progress, which can help you stay focused and motivated as you work toward your goals. Chapter 12, The Law of Least Effort. In this chapter, Clear introduces the law of least effort, which states that humans naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of work. This principle is rooted in our evolutionary history, where conserving energy was essential for survival. In modern times, this tendency manifests in our behavior, where we often choose the easiest and most convenient option, even if it's not the best one. Clear argues that one of the most effective ways to build good habits is to make them as easy as possible to perform. This involves reducing the friction associated with the habit so that it becomes the path of least resistance. For example, if you want to develop a habit of reading before bed, you could place a book on your pillow each morning. By the time you go to bed, the book is already there, making it easy to pick up and read a few pages. The chapter also explores the concept of environment design, where you intentionally arrange your surroundings to make good habits easier and bad habits harder. By designing your environment to support your goals, you reduce the effort required to make positive choices. Clear introduces the idea of priming the environment, which involves setting up your space to trigger the behaviors you want to develop. For example, if you want to practice guitar more often, you could place your guitar in a visible and easily accessible spot in your living room. The presence of the guitar serves as a cue to pick it up and play, reducing the effort needed to start the habit. The chapter also discusses the concept of automation, where you create systems and routines that make it easier to stick to your habits without thinking about them. Automation might involve setting up automatic bill payments, pre-scheduling workouts into your calendar, or preparing meals in advance. By automating certain behaviors, you remove the need for decision-making, which reduces the mental effort required to maintain the habit. Clear emphasizes that the key to building lasting habits is to make them so easy that you can't say no. He suggests starting with habits that take just a few minutes to complete, such as meditating for 2 minutes or writing one sentence in a journal. Once the habit is established, you can gradually increase the time and effort involved. The goal is to make the habit so simple and convenient that it becomes the default option. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to look for ways to simplify their habits and reduce the friction involved in performing them. Clear advises focusing on the decisive moments that set the tone for the rest of the day or activity. For example, the moment you decide to put on your running shoes is a decisive moment that determines whether or not you go for a run. By making these decisive moments easier, you increase the likelihood of following through on your habits. Chapter 13: How to Stop Procrastinating by Using the 2-Minute Rule. In this chapter, Clear introduces a practical strategy for overcoming procrastination and building new habits, the 2-Minute Rule. The 2-Minute Rule is based on the idea that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to complete. This approach helps to eliminate the resistance that often accompanies starting a new task or habit, making it easier to get started. Clear explains that the 2-minute rule is effective because it breaks down complex or daunting tasks into simple, manageable actions. For example, if you want to develop a habit of reading more books, you could start by reading just 1 page each day. If you want to exercise regularly, you could begin by putting on your workout clothes. The idea is to lower the barrier to entry so that it's almost impossible to say no. The chapter discusses the concept of gateway habits, which are small, initial actions that lead to more significant behaviors. Gateway habits are easy to perform and serve as the first step in a larger routine. For instance, putting on your running shoes could be the gateway habit that leads to a full workout. By focusing on these small, initial steps, you create momentum that makes it easier to continue with the habit. Clear also addresses the issue of perfectionism and how it can lead to procrastination. Perfectionists often avoid starting tasks because they fear not being able to complete them perfectly. The 2-minute rule helps to counteract this tendency by shifting the focus from doing something perfectly to simply getting started. Once you've started, it's easier to keep going, and the fear of imperfection diminishes. The chapter explores the concept of habit shaping, where you gradually build up a habit by starting small and then increasing the complexity or duration over time. For example, if your goal is to meditate for 30 minutes each day, you might start by meditating for just 2 minutes and then gradually increase the time as the habit becomes more established. This approach makes it easier to stick with a habit because you're not overwhelming yourself with too much too soon. Clear emphasizes that the most important part of any habit is the beginning. The act of starting is often the hardest part, but once you're in motion, it's easier to keep going. This is why the 2-minute rule is so effective. It removes the barriers to starting, making it easier to take that first step. By focusing on the first 2 minutes of any habit, you can create a foundation for long-term success. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to identify the habits they want to build and then find a way to scale them down to a 2-minute version. This could involve setting a timer for 2 minutes of focused work, writing just 1 sentence in a journal, or doing a single push-up. The key is to make the habit so small and easy that it's impossible to fail. Chapter 14: How to Make Good Habits Inevitable and Bad Habits Impossible. This chapter explores strategies for making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. This chapter focuses on the idea of commitment devices, which are tools or systems that lock in future behavior and prevent you from making poor choices in the moment. Clear explains that commitment devices work by reducing the friction associated with good habits and increasing the friction associated with bad habits. For example, you might set up automatic transfers to a savings account each month, making it more difficult to spend money impulsively. Similarly, you could place your phone in another room while you work to make it harder to get distracted by social media. The chapter discusses the concept of pre-commitment, which involves making decisions in advance that constrain your future choices. Pre-commitment can be a powerful tool for habit formation because it removes the temptation to make poor decisions in the heat of the moment. For instance, if you want to eat healthier, you could prepare meals in advance so that when you're hungry, healthy options are readily available. Clear also introduces the idea of choice architecture, which involves designing your environment in a way that makes good choices more likely. For example, if you want to drink more water, you could place water bottles in multiple locations around your home or office, making it easy to stay hydrated. By designing your environment to support your goals, you make it more difficult to engage in bad habits and easier to stick with good ones. The chapter explores the use of bright line rules, which are clear, non-negotiable guidelines that define your behavior. For example, you might set a rule that you never eat dessert during the week or that you always go to bed by 10 p.m. Bright line rules remove ambiguity and make it easier to stick to your habits because there's no room for negotiation or compromise. Clear also discusses the importance of habit contracts and accountability partners in making habits inevitable. A habit contract is a written agreement that outlines your commitment to a specific habit, along with the consequences if you fail to follow through. This contract can be shared with an accountability partner, who helps ensure that you stay on track. The social pressure of knowing that someone else is monitoring your progress can be a powerful motivator to maintain your habits. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to think creatively about how they can use commitment devices, pre-commitment, and choice architecture to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Clear suggests that the more barriers you can put in place to prevent bad habits, and the more you can reduce the effort required for good habits, the more successful you'll be in achieving your goals. Chapter 15. The Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. Chapter 15 introduces what Clear calls the cardinal rule of behavior change. Behaviors that are immediately rewarded get repeated, and behaviors that are immediately punished get avoided. This chapter delves into the importance of immediate feedback in reinforcing habits, and explains how this principle can be applied to both build good habits and break bad ones. Clear begins by explaining that the human brain is wired to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term benefits. This is why habits that provide instant gratification, such as eating junk food or checking social media, are often easier to form than those with delayed rewards, such as exercising or saving money. To counteract this tendency, Clear suggests finding ways to make good habits immediately rewarding. Clear emphasizes again the strategy of habit tracking, which involves keeping a record of your habits to provide immediate feedback on your progress. Habit tracking can be as simple as marking a calendar each day you complete a habit, or using a habit tracking app. The act of recording your progress serves as a visual reminder of your commitment, and provides a small reward in the form of seeing your progress accumulate over time. Clear also revisits the concept of reinforcement, where you reward yourself for completing a habit. This could involve giving yourself a small treat, taking a break, or engaging in a favorite activity after completing a habit. The key is to make the reward immediate and directly linked to the habit, so that your brain associates the behavior with a positive outcome. The chapter also repeats the idea of punishment as a way to discourage bad habits. Clear suggests using negative reinforcement, where the removal of an unpleasant stimulus serves as a punishment for bad behavior. For example, if you procrastinate on a task, you might impose a penalty, such as donating money to a cause you don't support or telling a friend about your failure. The fear of facing these consequences can motivate you to avoid the bad habit in the first place. Clear emphasizes that the most effective rewards and punishments are those that are immediate and tangible. While long-term goals are important, they are often too distant to provide the motivation needed to sustain a habit. By focusing on immediate rewards and punishments, you can create a more compelling feedback loop that reinforces positive behavior and discourages negative behavior. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to experiment with different forms of immediate feedback to find what works best for them. Whether it's habit tracking, reinforcement, or punishment, the key is to create a system that provides immediate, meaningful feedback on your habits. This immediate feedback helps to reinforce the behavior and makes it more likely that the habit will stick. Chapter 16. How to stick with good habits every day. In this chapter, Clear discusses the concept of habit streaks, and how maintaining a streak can help reinforce good habits. A habit streak refers to the consecutive days that you successfully perform a habit. The longer the streak, the more invested you become in maintaining it, as breaking the streak feels like losing progress. Clear explains that habit streaks work because they tap into the human desire for consistency. Once you start a streak, your brain is motivated to keep it going, as breaking the streak would feel like a step backward. This is why many people find it easier to maintain a habit once they've built up a streak, even if it started with small, simple actions. The chapter introduces the idea of never breaking the chain, which is a strategy used by comedian Jerry Seinfeld to develop his writing habit. Seinfeld's goal was to write jokes every day, and he used a wall calendar to mark off each day he wrote. Over time, this chain of X's became a visual reminder of his commitment, and his only goal was to not break the chain. Clear suggests that this strategy can be applied to any habit, as the visual representation of progress can be a powerful motivator. Clear also discusses the importance of focusing on showing up, which means doing the habit every day, no matter how small the action. The goal is to maintain consistency, even if the effort is minimal. For example, if your habit is to exercise daily, even doing one push-up counts as maintaining the habit. The key is to prioritize consistency over intensity, as consistency is what ultimately leads to long-term success. The chapter explores the concept of identity-based habits, and how habit streaks help reinforce your identity as someone who engages in the desired behavior. For example, if you see yourself as a runner, maintaining a running streak reinforces that identity. The longer the streak, the more you identify with the behavior, making it easier to continue. Clear also touches on the idea of automaticity, which is the point at which a behavior becomes automatic and requires little conscious effort. Habit streaks help accelerate the process of reaching automaticity, as the repeated performance of the habit strengthens the neural pathways associated with it. Over time, the habit becomes ingrained, and you no longer need to think about doing it, it just happens naturally. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to focus on building and maintaining habit streaks as a way to reinforce good habits. Clear advises starting with small, manageable actions that you can do every day and gradually building from there. The goal is to create a streak that you're motivated to maintain, which will help solidify the habit and make it a permanent part of your routine. Chapter 17. How an accountability partner can change everything. This chapter explores the role of accountability in habit formation and how having an accountability partner can significantly increase your chances of success. An accountability partner is someone who holds you responsible for your actions, provides support and encouragement, and helps you stay on track with your goals. Clear begins by explaining that accountability partners are effective because they introduce a social component to habit formation. Knowing that someone else is aware of your goals and expects updates on your progress creates a sense of obligation, which can be a powerful motivator to stay committed. The fear of disappointing your accountability partner or appearing unreliable can push you to follow through on your habits, even when you don't feel like it. The chapter discusses different ways to structure an accountability partnership, such as regular check-ins, progress reports, or shared goals. For example, you might meet with your accountability partner once a week to discuss your progress, challenges, and next steps. Alternatively, you could set up a system where you text each other daily updates on your habits. The key is to establish a routine that works for both of you and keeps you engaged in the process. Clear also introduces the concept of habit contracts, which are formal agreements that outline your commitment to a specific habit and the consequences if you fail to stick to it. Habit contracts can be shared with your accountability partner, who helps enforce the terms of the contract. For example, you might agree to donate money to a charity you dislike if you miss a workout, with your accountability partner responsible for ensuring you follow through. The added layer of social accountability makes it more likely that you'll stick to your habits. The chapter explores the psychological benefits of having an accountability partner, such as increased motivation, greater self-awareness, and improved problem-solving skills. Clear explains that discussing your goals and challenges with someone else forces you to articulate your thoughts and feelings, which can lead to new insights and solutions. Your accountability partner can also provide valuable feedback and perspective, helping you see things you might have missed on your own. Clear also discusses the importance of choosing the right accountability partner. Ideally, your partner should be someone you trust, who shares your commitment to personal growth, and who is willing to hold you accountable in a constructive and supportive way. It's important to choose someone who will be honest with you about your progress and who won't hesitate to challenge you when necessary. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to find an accountability partner or join a group that shares their goals. Clear suggests that the social support and accountability provided by these relationships can make a significant difference in your ability to stick with your habits and achieve your goals. Whether it's a friend, family member, or coach, having someone in your corner can help you stay motivated, focused, and committed to your long-term success. Chapter 18: The Truth About Talent, When Genes Matter and When They Don't. In this chapter, Clear explores the relationship between talent, genetics, and habit formation. This chapter examines the role that natural ability plays in our success and how we can leverage our strengths to build habits that align with our inherent talents. Clear begins by acknowledging that genetics do play a role in determining our natural abilities and inclinations. Some people are naturally better at certain activities due to their genetic makeup, such as having a predisposition for endurance in long-distance running or a knack for mathematical reasoning. However, Clear emphasizes that while genetics can provide an advantage, they do not determine your destiny. Habits, effort, and environment also play critical roles in shaping your success. The chapter introduces the concept of the Goldilocks zone, which refers to the sweet spot where a habit or activity is challenging enough to keep you engaged but not so difficult that it becomes discouraging. Clear explains that finding your Goldilocks zone is essential for sustaining long-term habits, as it keeps you motivated and interested in continuing the behavior. This zone is often where you experience the most growth and progress because the challenge is perfectly matched to your current abilities. Clear also discusses the idea of nature versus nurture in habit formation. He argues that while genetics provide the foundation for your abilities, the environment you create and the habits you build are what determine your ultimate success. For example, someone with a genetic predisposition for strength might excel in weightlifting, but without the right training, habits, and environment, their potential may never be fully realized. The chapter emphasizes the importance of choosing habits that align with your natural talents and interests. Clear suggests that one of the keys to building sustainable habits is to find activities that you enjoy and are naturally inclined to excel in. When you choose habits that match your strengths, you're more likely to stick with them because they feel rewarding and satisfying. Clear also introduces the concept of deliberate practice, which involves intentionally practicing a skill or habit in a way that pushes your limits and leads to improvement. Deliberate practice is most effective when it is focused on areas where you have natural talent, as it allows you to make the most of your inherent abilities while also pushing you to grow. Clear suggests that by combining deliberate practice with habits that align with your strengths, you can achieve extraordinary results. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to reflect on their natural talents and how they can leverage them to build better habits. Clear advises finding the intersection between what you're naturally good at and what you enjoy doing, as this is where you're most likely to achieve long-term success. He also emphasizes the importance of being patient and persistent, as even with natural talent, it takes time and effort to develop habits that lead to excellence. Chapter 19: The Goldilocks Rule, How to Stay Motivated in Life and Work. This chapter introduces the Goldilocks Rule, which states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. This chapter explores how the Goldilocks Rule can be applied to habit formation and how it helps maintain motivation and engagement over the long term. Clear begins by explaining that the Goldilocks Rule is based on the idea that people are most motivated when they are working on tasks that are neither too easy nor too difficult, but just challenging enough to push them to improve. When a task is too easy, it becomes boring, and when it's too difficult, it becomes frustrating. The key to staying motivated is to find that sweet spot where the task is challenging but achievable. The chapter discusses the concept of flow, which is a state of deep focus and engagement where you are fully immersed in an activity. Flow is most likely to occur when you're working on tasks that are in your Goldilocks zone, as the challenge is perfectly matched to your skill level. Clear explains that flow is a powerful motivator because it makes the task at hand feel rewarding and enjoyable, which increases the likelihood of repeating the behavior. Clear also introduces the idea of stretching your abilities to maintain motivation. Stretching involves gradually increasing the difficulty of a task as you improve, ensuring that you continue to operate in your Goldilocks zone. For example, if you're learning a new language, you might start with basic vocabulary and then gradually move on to more complex grammar and conversation. By continually stretching your abilities, you keep the task challenging and engaging, which helps maintain your motivation. The chapter explores the importance of setting clear, achievable goals that are aligned with your current abilities. Clear suggests breaking down larger goals into smaller, manageable tasks that can be completed within your Goldilocks zone. This approach helps prevent overwhelm and keeps you focused on making steady progress. It also allows you to experience small wins along the way, which can boost your confidence and motivation. Clear also discusses the role of feedback in maintaining motivation. He explains that immediate and specific feedback is essential for staying on track and making progress. When you receive feedback on your performance, it helps you identify areas for improvement and adjust your approach accordingly. This feedback loop is crucial for staying motivated and continuing to challenge yourself. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to apply the Goldilocks rule to their habits and goals. Clear advises finding activities that are challenging enough to keep you engaged but not so difficult that they become discouraging. By staying in your Goldilocks zone, you can maintain motivation, achieve a state of flow, and make continuous progress toward your goals. Chapter 20: The Downside of Creating Good Habits. In this chapter, Clear discusses the potential downsides of creating good habits and how to avoid the pitfalls that can come with habit formation. While habits are generally positive and beneficial, they can also lead to complacency, mindlessness, and a lack of flexibility if not managed carefully. Clear begins by explaining that one of the main benefits of habits is that they allow us to perform tasks automatically, without much conscious thought. However, this automaticity can also be a drawback, as it can lead to mindlessness and a lack of engagement. When a habit becomes too ingrained, we may stop paying attention to how we perform it, which can lead to errors or suboptimal results. The chapter introduces the concept of habit creep, where the benefits of a habit start to diminish over time because the behavior becomes too routine and loses its effectiveness. For example, if you have a habit of exercising the same way every day, your body may eventually adapt, and the workout may no longer be as effective. Clear suggests that to avoid habit creep, it's important to regularly review and adjust your habits to ensure they continue to meet your goals. Clear also discusses the potential for habits to create mental rigidity, where you become so reliant on your habits that you struggle to adapt to new situations or challenges. This rigidity can limit your creativity and problem-solving abilities, as you may become stuck in a routine that no longer serves you. To counteract this, Clear advises incorporating variety and flexibility into your habits. For example, you might vary your workout routine to keep it challenging and engaging or try new approaches to your daily tasks to stimulate creativity. The chapter explores the importance of balancing habits with deliberate practice and mindfulness. While habits are essential for efficiency and consistency, deliberate practice is necessary for continuous improvement. Clear suggests setting aside time for deliberate practice, where you focus on improving specific skills or behaviors, even if they are already part of your routine. This practice helps prevent complacency and ensures that you continue to grow and develop. Clear also emphasizes the importance of mindfulness in habit formation. Mindfulness involves being fully present and aware of your actions, rather than operating on autopilot. By practicing mindfulness, you can stay engaged with your habits and make conscious choices about how you perform them. This awareness can help you avoid the pitfalls of mindlessness and ensure that your habits remain effective and aligned with your goals. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to regularly review and reflect on their habits. Clear advises taking the time to assess whether your habits are still serving you and making adjustments as needed. By staying flexible and open to change, you can avoid the downsides of habit formation and continue to grow and improve over time. Conclusion: the secret to results that last. In the conclusion, Clear summarizes the key principles and strategies discussed throughout the book and offers final thoughts on how to achieve lasting behavior change. He emphasizes that the secret to results that last lies in understanding the power of small habits and making continuous, incremental improvements over time. Clear begins by reiterating the importance of focusing on systems rather than goals. He explains that while goals are important for setting a direction, it is the systems, the daily habits and routines, that determine whether you achieve those goals. By concentrating on improving your systems, you create an environment where success is inevitable. The conclusion also revisits the 4 laws of behavior change: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Clear emphasizes that these laws are the foundation of effective habit formation and can be applied to any behavior you want to change. Whether you're trying to build a new habit or break an old one, following these principles will increase your chances of success. Clear also discusses the importance of identity in habit formation. He argues that lasting change is most likely to occur when it is driven by a change in identity, when you start to see yourself as the type of person who engages in the desired behavior. By focusing on becoming the person you want to be, rather than just achieving a specific outcome, you create a more sustainable foundation for habit change. The conclusion emphasizes the power of small, consistent actions. Clear explains that while individual actions may seem insignificant in the moment, they compound over time to create significant results. This is why it's important to focus on making small improvements every day, rather than expecting instant results. The key to success is persistence and consistency. Clear also encourages readers to be patient and forgiving with themselves. Habit formation is a journey, and it's natural to encounter setbacks and challenges along the way. The important thing is to stay committed to the process and continue making progress, even if it's slow. Clear advises readers to focus on the long-term benefits of their habits, and to trust that the results will come with time. The book concludes with a final reminder that small habits can lead to remarkable results when they are consistently applied over time. Clear encourages readers to take action, start small, and focus on making continuous improvements. By doing so, they can achieve lasting behavior change and create the life they desire. Thank you for joining our quest for infinite growth. If you enjoyed this, please like and follow Infinite Self-Improvement on all social media and podcasts. We'll see you soon, but until then, remember that your potential is infinite.